And please let me know if you want me later in the show too.
Okay.
Just because they're going to be back at 1:35.
Gotcha. Okay.
And and I have to do a TikTok, so just let me know if you do.
It's Kim today in the second
that may be
hour,
an Anthony
like
Carey
1:30 to 2:30.
Oh, that's right.
Kim.
Hey, we're going here.
Eddie, am I in the right spot for you?
Good afternoon, Carl Deffenbaugh joining you here with the Wisconsin Live Desk. Apologies for a little bit of the fits and starts there as we get things going for you on this Tuesday afternoon. Trying to keep an eye on things, make sure we had everything in place for the next 2 hours here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We are ready for you, though, with a number of different things happening both here in Wisconsin, specifically in Milwaukee, that we'll get to in just a second, and then around the country as well. A quick look around the area. The roof is open at American Family Field after the Brewers got a win on Memorial Day. They'll be back at it against the Red Sox. Sports of a different kind, though, featured over at the Milwaukee Rotary Club, where you're seeing some of the speakers there. We're supposed to hear from Packers president Mark Murphy, of course, outgoing after all the success he's had leading that organization over the years. Once Mark Murphy starts speaking here in Milwaukee, rehashing some of his time leading the green and gold in Wisconsin, we will take you live to the Rotary Club. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is also speaking right now. That's potentially something we'll try to check in, but it is the Wisconsin Live Desk, of course, and the story of the week, of the month, of the last year in many ways is here in Milwaukee. So that's where we want to get you started, actually, at the Milwaukee County Courthouse. We have our reporter, Aaron Mabin, standing by. Let's bring in Aaron right now on the Wisconsin Live Desk as I make sure I get your microphone up there, Aaron. Joining us on what is day one of expected to be a weeks-long process that really the entire city of Milwaukee has been focused on since the death of 19-year-old Sade Robinson. Jury selection for Maxwell Anderson began today. His trial, as he's accused of both killing and then dismembering Sade Robinson in a case that received national attention, certainly a high-profile case. Why don't you take it away? You're outside of the Milwaukee County Courthouse. Where do we stand just a few hours into this process, Aaron?
And Carl, you probably just saw me leaning over. I have my computer right here. I have some notes right here as well, because it really has been a full morning of this jury selection process that we know is going to be very extensive and something that both attorneys and the judge are taking very seriously. So right now we're coming up at 12:32 on this Tuesday morning, and it was Tuesday afternoon now. It was around 11:53, so not too long ago, when for the first time we saw the jury pool walk into the courtroom. According to my notes, we got about 23 women and 17 men of different backgrounds, someone looking as young as 18 years old, another person looking to be maybe in their 70s on that jury pool. If you've been on a jury before, if you've been in a courtroom during this jury process, you know it probably takes not too long to pick it, and they don't take up the entire courtroom. This is a very different situation, Carl. This is a case that has gotten not only local attention, but national attention. So what they did is they had about 73 people, more than 70 people, fill out a questionnaire. They whittled that number down to 40. And later this afternoon, they're going to come back and hopefully cut that number down to closer to about 15 people. So that's going to be 12 jurors and those 3 alternates too. So not too long ago, again, we saw our first look at the jury pool, a number of different races, different ages, but again, they're all going to be in the Milwaukee County area. Let me pull up some questions that the judge was just asking the jury before I stepped out of the courtroom. So they came in at 11:53. And she asked them some preliminary questions. So this is Judge Crivello. She said, does anyone here have a hearing problem? If you have a hearing problem, raise your hand. No one raised their hand. Anyone not from the United States, not from Milwaukee County, struggling with speaking or understanding English? And I want to make it clear, you all, this is going to be 2 weeks. Does anyone have a problem with this? No one had a problem with this at all, so that means we still have those 40 jurors who are now enjoying their lunch break right now, are around 23 women and 17 men. And they're going to hear this case that has really captivated our community since April 1st of 2024. That's when Sade Robinson and Maxwell Anderson met, they had a night out, and that was the last time that Sade Robinson was seen alive. So they're going to go through a lot of case, Carl, and not only for this case, they're going to have to go through a lot of evidence too. The witness list that we are going through in the courtroom earlier today is really hefty, around more than 200 people, most of them with the police department, most of them detective investigators, so obviously that will be cut down too, but there are hundreds of people that the state can call and about 7 that the defense can call, that those jurors, that's the focus of today, will be listening to, Carl.
Interesting too, you sent me that document, the questionnaire that the potential jurors had to fill out. A lot of them are general questions, right? You have familiar with the legal process? Do you know any judges, lawyers, things like that? But specific to this trial, I imagine it was interesting, given the high profile nature of it, there was some questioning about how much you've heard about this case. Doesn't necessarily eliminate you from being a juror, though certainly they want people to be completely impartial in hearing this information, but questioning how much you'd heard about the case in the news, of course, here, like we have been covering for more than a year now. What were some of those questions like, and did you hear anything from the attorneys about just how difficult this was going to be to kind of pin down an actually impartial jury?
So a lot of those questions are really between the attorneys and the judge, so we have not heard any of those conversations from the attorneys on the case, but we do know through our reporting over the last weeks and days leading up to this, that they know that this is going to be a difficult process to find people, not necessarily who haven't heard about this case, because it's so hard, not from just social media, but social media, word of mouth and everything, but just finding someone who's going to be impartial and can listen to this and make a decision. Okay, we have it for you though. This is what the jury questionnaire that those 40 jurors have went through early this morning. Let's start with the original number 73. They went through this right here, and that's how they got down to the number 40. So this is the first page right here of a 7-page document showing, have you ever received training in any of the following fields? They go to women's rights, medicine, nursing. Are you personally acquainted with any judges, prosecuting attorneys? And they're able to fill this out right here. So this is just them understanding more about the jury. So the jury finished this. They had 2 groups. The jury finished it. The attorneys, the judges went over it. And now kind of to get into your point, Carl, we're on page 4 now. This case involves an allegation that Mr. Maxwell Anderson committed the homicide of Sade Robinson. The case received media attention. Have you read or heard anything about this case or the defendant from any source such as a newspaper, television or radio, social media, Facebook, Twitter, blogs, etc.? People are going to put yes or no. We're not going to know how many people put yes, how many put no, but if people answered yes, what have you heard or read from what source too? So they're really getting down to the nitty gritty, and people are really filling out these lines right here. So if they have heard media, where'd you put it? Did you see it on Fox 6? Did you see it on Wild? That could be an answer for them. How closely have you been following the story? There's a 0 all the way to a 10, and 10, they search for everything. The defendant in this matter is Maxwell Anderson. Do you or someone you know Maxwell Anderson? Do you or someone you know Sade Robinson? Is another one too. So they're not only asking about, do you know the attorneys for this case? Do you know the judge for this case? Do you know the defendant? Do you know the victim of this case? But also, have you researched this? Because it's one thing to look this up on social media, Carl. It's another to look it up and go down a deep, deep rabbit hole. So that became the questionnaire that got us to that 40. We don't know if there were any, blaring answers that got people off right away, but we know there was enough, okay answers, we can say, that allowed us to get to the 40 people who are going to be the possible jurors in this homicide trial.
Aaron, let me ask you one other thing too, just about this is our first chance to be in that courtroom, and you, as along with our reporting partners, Bill Miston, Bria Jones, are all going to be here for so much of this trial. Our first look at Maxwell Anderson in quite some time, from what we saw from an original booking photo and some of the surveillance video that is expected to be used in this trial. How did he appear? Who else was there when it comes to representatives of both Anderson's side and Sade Robinson's side of things?
I always like to look at the before and after photographs of a defendant because a lot changes over a year. A year ago, Maxwell Anderson had that long hair. You probably remember that from that booking photograph. Today, he walked in the courtroom at 9:31 this morning with short hair and a little bit of a longer top, so kind of a faded haircut. I was a little bit expecting to have a suit, but today he wore a green kind of a plaid shirt with a white undershirt, and he had khaki pants on at 9:31, and he walks in, and you know, on his side behind him when he walks in, he has his attorneys right here. There's also behind that glass, because now we're entering where we're sitting in the gallery, there's his father, his mother, and another woman who I haven't been able to pinpoint who she is quite yet, but we're going to work to figure that out.
Clean shaven
very,
as well, Aaron,
business
right?
casual, yes, clean shaven. Very clean shaven face too, Carl, yes.
Yeah, from some of the pictures that we saw. How about on Sade Robinson's side of things? We know her mother and other members of her family have been quite outspoken since the disappearance of her daughter more than a year ago now, and the details that came from that. They have done a series of things, including vigils, balloon releases, and the like. I imagine there was a pretty strong contingent of Sade Robinson's family in the courtroom too.
And I think it's important to note that Sade Robinson's mother, people have said, has been very strong throughout this process. She's spoken to a lot of media about this, really just making sure that her daughter's name lives on. We haven't heard much speaking from her today. She's been very perceptive in the courtroom the entire time. Very small woman, Carl, who is needing help right now to walk, it seems. So someone has been holding her up at least one or two times that I've seen her walking in and out of the courtroom. She is there. There's also another woman who is with her, a younger woman. And then Sade Robinson's father is also in the courtroom. He was living out of state when this happened, and he is also there with another woman too. So a number of family members have taken the front row, the second row too. Also, they have a family attorney who is with them now. She's come up from Arkansas. She's handling another case right now. So she's here from Arkansas in the courtroom as well. Then we get into people from the public. We have people who are from Milwaukee County. We have Sade Robinson's former employees. I haven't seen the employees from the Pizza Shuttle. Not saying, excuse me, that they haven't been there, but I just haven't been able to identify them. We do know that she's actually worked in this building, Eddie. We have the Wisconsin Club that is right over here. People who worked with Sade Robinson here at the Wisconsin Club were also in the courtroom today. So they were able to either walk over, maybe take the morning off. And I was talking to someone who in the past, it just says she lit up the room and she was a really good employee. So she has a lot of support there. I do want to note back to Maxwell Anderson's side, Homestead High School, their senior class has some sort of class field trip, and they are in the courtroom too. So we have two rows of students. These are seniors who are there on Maxwell Robinson's side too. So we have Maxwell Anderson's side. So mom, dad, a family member there. We go a few rows back, and some Homestead High School seniors are on that side of the courtroom gallery too. Then we go to the other side. There's Sade Robinson's family taking up two rows, and then former friends of Sade Robinson. Then we have media taking up two rows too, Carl.
And let me ask you this too, because I know this is going to be part of your stories later today here on Fox Local and other outlets as well. But you spoke to a couple who's from Milwaukee who just wanted to be there in support of Sade Robinson. Kind of speaks to what has captured so many people about this trial, let alone whether they knew her or not. I imagine, or I believe this couple did not actually know Sade Robinson.
They didn't know her.
What does that speak to? Obviously, they would not be involved in the jury pool because they are clearly very invested in this trial. But what does that speak to in terms of why this trial has received the attention, the notoriety that it has, you think?
You know, I think it shows the magnitude of this case, from the vigils to the demonstrations outside of Maxwell Anderson's home, the vigil outside of Pizza Shuttle, and now people coming to the courthouse who didn't even know Sade Robinson, don't even know Maxwell Anderson, and they want to be here today. So the couple, they live in Milwaukee on the city's far northwest side, kind of near Timmerman Airport, in that direction. And they said they just wanted to be here to support Sade Robinson and her family. The woman telling me that this is something that really captivated her from the beginning. She also said that she lost her daughter in a different manner. She didn't go into specifics about how she lost her daughter, but that is why she really is connected to Sade Robinson's mother. So we've been seeing her maybe motioning to Robinson's mother throughout the jury selection process. And I said, what do you really want to know? My last question to her. She said, I really want to know what happened. I really want to know what happened. And that's what a lot of people want to know. That is what really brought her out here today, not just for the jury selection, but Carl, she made it very clear that she's going to be out here for much of the trial too. Her husband was also here today. He was here mostly to support her, but he has a lot of questions and wanted to see this play out as well. It just shows the magnitude, Carl, of this case and how it just seems to really resonate with people from all these different communities around Milwaukee County, around the state, around the country too.
And to be honest, it's some questions that we may still have unanswered at the end of this trial. There are so many unknowns when it goes back to this, what began as a first date apparently between Sade Robinson and Maxwell Anderson. He is then accused not only of killing her in the hours that followed, but of dismembering her body. And there have been different body parts found around Milwaukee County, as far away as Waukegan, Illinois as well, but not all parts of Sade Robinson's body have been located. So there's still a lot of questions out there. It remains to be seen what will come out of different witness testimony in the weeks to come. Aaron, you mentioned kind of where we're at here in terms of starting with that large pool of potential jurors down to about 40 or so, but still a lot of work to be done for the different attorneys on each side. What happens in terms of a timeline? When do we think jury selection will wrap up and then opening statements begin for this trial?
So coming up at 1:35, that is when the jurors are supposed to report back to the courtroom, and that is when the voir dire process is going to pick up. So again, the questioning is going to be picking up again. Carl, I think this is going to go into a second day. They're just coming into the courtroom right now. We have 40 people. They got to knock this number down to 15. I think this could go into a second day. A lot of legal analysts that we have been hearing from over the past few days expect this to maybe stretch into a second day. I don't see any opening statements happening today, but if it does happen, that would probably happen toward the end of the day, maybe tomorrow. Gosh, it's only Tuesday, so who knows when things are going to pick up. But again, they have to go through the jury questioning, and we are at the very, very beginning, but the judge made it clear that this is expected to last 2 weeks at a minimum.
There were a series of delays. Sade Robinson's body began to be found more than a year ago at this point, April of 2024, and now we finally get to day one of the Maxwell Anderson trial. Aaron, thank you very much for getting us up to speed. We'll let you get back inside to that courtroom. I know you'll be bringing us a lot more throughout the day today here on Fox Local, fox6now.com, as well as on air as well. Thank you very much. Aaron Maben reporting outside the Milwaukee County Courthouse. And as Aaron gets back inside, we also want to mention we're covering jury selection today. Once the trial begins in full, we will be streaming that for you in its entirety here on Fox Local. So normally, you know, each day we have the Wisconsin weather experts. We have the Wisconsin Live Desk now from 12:30 to 2:30. Once those opening statements begin and the trial is underway, we will be carrying that for you live in its entirety with a series of experts and reporters like Aaron, Bill Miston, Bria Jones, who are in the courtroom joining you throughout that coverage to bring you the latest happening inside the courtroom. Such a high-profile case that has played out now well over a year since Sade Robinson was first reported missing, and then a leg found in Warnemont Park, starting a frantic search that now culminates in the trial beginning today. We have to take a short break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, but if you see over my shoulder here, over my, right shoulder, Mark Murphy has started speaking at the Rotary Club of Milwaukee. So a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll try to get you the Packers president on the other side when we come back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, welcome back. Carl Deffenbaugh here with you on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We switch gears rather dramatically. The Maxwell Anderson trial underway, and we'll try to get you some more information throughout the day on that. But Packers president Mark Murphy is also in Milwaukee today during the offseason for the Green and Gold and during the final days of his tenure leading the franchise up in Green Bay. Of course, the team president. He's been involved in so much, including landing the NFL draft, such a smashing success for Titletown just last month at this point. It feels like it was sooner than that. Let's listen to Mark Murphy, the guest of honor at the Milwaukee Rotary Club today, and what he has to say about the state of the team and the league.
Green Bay, and you can see, we've since 2000 and I think that's 2018, we've raised, over 17 million. Yeah, just some of the different things, and we were talking a little bit about the table, some of the different things that we've really done to try to make a difference across in the organization. Concerts, Paul McCartney concert, that was tremendous. I will share, I got to meet Paul McCartney, and you grow up a Beatles fan, so I go and I said, Paul, I'd love for you to come back for a football game. And he goes, are you kidding me? It's so cold there. And I said, Paul, we have games in September. Well, but I don't think he really wanted to come back to Lambeau Field. I did offer him to come to a Packer game. But some of the things that we had, you can see the soccer matchup between Manchester and FC Bayern. College football, got the LSU-Wisconsin game. We're coming up in 2026. It's going to be Sunday night before Labor Day on NBC, Wisconsin-Notre Dame. So we're going to try going forward to have one major non-Packer event in Lambeau Field. And it's easier said than done, I'll say that. There's a lot of moving parts, but hopefully keep that going. Oh, passenger rail. This is one of my personal pet peeves. Do you know where the National Railroad Museum is? Green Bay, Wisconsin. Do we have train service from Green Bay anywhere? No. So we're hoping to get train service, and it's a long shot, but we're hoping to get train service from Green Bay down to Milwaukee. I'll tell you, I've got 3 grandchildren, two of my grandchildren live in Chicago. Best way to go to Chicago, I drive right to the Milwaukee airport and hop on the train. I beat all the traffic. All right, just a few other things here. You can see some of the different outreach events, or tentpole events, excuse me. And on the bottom right there, that's my lovely wife, Lori. And she's done a lot of great things within the organization, and especially the ladies of Lambeau, which bring all the women that work for the Packers, wives of players, wives of employees, and raise all kinds of money for great charities. And it's also affectionately known as the LOL. And Lori also started the Jazz House, which is, she and I, have had foster children over the years, and some of you may know that you age out of the foster care system at 18. So she saw the need and started a house for children or adults who have aged out of the foster care system. And that now, I think it's in Green Bay, I think there's 20 people that are living in it now. So it's been very positive. You can see just some of the different community outreach events that we do. Just want to mention flag football. That is something that the Packers have really focused on. It's both boys and girls flag tournaments, but really, really exciting. That is going to be an Olympic sport. So in the LA Olympics in 2028, both men's and women's flag will be an Olympic sport. So that's really exciting for, and NFL players will be allowed to play in it. And it'll be in the summer before the NFL season starts. Tailgate tour, I think this is another example of something that's really unique to the Packers. Every year we take a number of current and former players. You can see the group there. I think this year we had 7, 5 former players and 2 current players. Tucker Kraft and Lucas Van Ness were our current players. And just go across the state and really help raise money at 5 different communities and stop and just thank people for being fans. And it's something that I've really enjoyed. It's a great chance to really spend time not only with our former players, but as well as current players. Draft summary, I tell you, we, just quickly on the draft, this is something, so 2015, for years prior to 2015, I think 45 years in a row, the draft was held in New York City. And the league decided, let's take the draft on the road. And they started with Chicago. I think they had it in Chicago 2 years. But around 2015, we kind of raised our hand and said, Green Bay would be a pretty good place to have the draft. With our history and tradition in Lambeau Field, once they stopped laughing, the league, I remember somebody from the league office saying, you're serious? And I said, yeah, I think the draft would be good in Green Bay. We've got great fans. Lambeau Field's a shrine, and so we kept bothering the league. It's like we'd like to go. Then finally, 2 years ago, they said, "Yep, you can have the draft in Green Bay." And I tell you, I couldn't be more proud. You can see all the different aspects of it. I think. It really showed not only Green Bay and Lambeau Field, but I think the entire state of Wisconsin. We're going to see the benefits of this for many years to come. People who would watch the draft on TV and thought, maybe we'll take a vacation, we'll head up to Wisconsin. So it very, very positive. And it was the first ever taste of the draft. And you can see the statistics. So, a couple things, 600,000 people, and that's the second most that ever attended. Number 1 was Detroit. Oh, by the way, don't get me started on Detroit's president. So I'll tell you a quick story. So I actually Rod Wood is the president of the Lions. And when it was announced that we had 600,000 people, I think we were third, so I think we were tied with another city. And so Rod, and they were first. They had, 700,000. Well, by the way, Detroit's a little larger than Green Bay, I think. People just walked out and showed up. So, but anyway, he said, the Packers finished third in attendance just like they did in the division this year. So. It's good to have good rivalries. So just some of the statistics. TV ratings were phenomenal. Actually, I think, you can see it was the second most watched draft ever. I think the Saturday was the highest rated ever. And the highest rating for the overall draft was during the pandemic. And quite honestly, we were all trapped inside. What else are we going to do? We watched the draft. So I think we're actually the highest rated ever. And here's a quick video on the draft. Yeah, just quickly on the draft, I had the honor, it was really an honor to introduce our first pick. So I think we had like the 23rd pick overall in the draft. And they had a script all written out for me. And for some reason, when I saw who the draft pick was, I decided to go off script a little bit, which is I usually get in trouble when that happens. But so what I decided to do, and this really shows you how closely our fans follow everything to do with the Packers, including the draft. So what I decided to do before I announced the pick, I said, for the first time since 2002, and almost everybody in the crowd there knew that we were about to draft a wide receiver for the first time since 2002, and it was Matthew Golden from the University of Texas. So that was pretty exciting to see the fans do that, and let's hope Matthew Golden turns out to be a good player. So just in closing, just talk a little bit about some of the things that we're doing outside of football. I should say, one of the things that with our record profits, with our substantial profits, we're investing back into the facility. And so in terms of facility, we've got brand new football offices that are a little over a year old. We have new administrative offices. We're about to move into, we're completely redoing the locker room for a football team. So we're really very fortunate. The NFL obviously is financially very sound, and unlike other businesses, our main cost is labor. And so when you have the certainty of labor of a collective bargaining agreement, it allows you to really be a little more aggressive in terms of investing in your facilities, things of that nature. So having back-to-back 10-year collective bargaining agreements has really been very beneficial. So we've invested on the player side. We're also allowing us to do is invest in the community. And you can see where we've done that is through Titletown. If you haven't, obviously that's the development, multi-use development adjacent to Lambeau Field. We really, we were talking about it earlier, we probably 10, 15 years ago, we started purchasing land around Lambeau Field, not really sure exactly how we would use it, but knowing that it's very valuable. And spent a lot of time looking at what other teams had done. One of the things that really interested us was the development that the Patriots had in around. Now, believe it or not, even though they're a Boston-based team, they're in Foxborough, which is a smaller community than Green Bay. But so what they did was they called it Patriot Place. And it was very nice. We a number of us went out and looked at it and talked with them about different options. And but in a lot of ways, theirs was really more like a mall next to a stadium, and we wanted something that was more integrated into the community. Because if you're looking to make a profit, turns out a full football field in the middle of your development, there's no return on it. But we figured we have to have a football field, and we're the Packers. So we've got a 100-yard football field that is used all the time. We also have a tubing hill, a skating trail. Skating trail they did have in New England. That was one of the ideas we stole. But so you'll see some of the different things that we've done with Titletown. Really pleased. So it's on some of our original anchors, Hinterland Restaurant, Lodge Kohler. Really been pleased with them. We just opened the Packers Athletic Club, which I think will be really popular in the community. And now we have housing, both have condominiums, you can see there on the bottom right.
As Mark Murphy runs through all the accomplishments in, I believe, 17 years leading the team as the Packers president, we're going to take a quick break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Hopefully get some of the question and answer we're expecting to follow at the Rotary Club of Milwaukee. Mark Murphy about to turn 70 in July. As a result, there's a mandatory retirement age for that Packer president role. So he is counting down the days, the weeks, just about a month to go in his very successful tenure there in Titletown. Quick break here on the Live Desk. We'll see what Mark Murphy has to say after this.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, Carl Deffenbaugh back with you on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We want to get you back to Mark Murphy speaking at the Rotary Club of Milwaukee today, kind of part of a farewell tour. Took over as the Packers president and CEO in 2008, but he's turning 70 in July. So as a result, that's a mandatory retirement age, and he will turn things over to Ed Policy, the Green Bay Packers chief operating officer and general counsel, will replace Murphy. But man, 2008, you get a Super Bowl title in there, and you end it with the NFL draft coming to the league's smallest market. Quite a list of accomplishments. And let's listen in to some more of the questioning from the folks there at the Rotary Club of Mark Murphy.
We had friends that have a place up in Door County, and so this was, early in my tenure at Northwestern. We went up to Door County, and we had not seen it before, and we were like, this is really pretty special. So once we moved to Green Bay, about a year into it, we bought a place up in Door County. My wife continues to buy places up in Door County, which is great. And among those purchases was the golf course. But no, we love it up there. And I'll bore these people. I already told the story, but yeah, Maxwell, I'll spend more time. I don't think I'll run it, but I'll be much more involved with the golf course. We're looking to hire an assistant general manager, if anybody's interested. Want to spend the summers up in Door County. But no, it's so it's the golf course is it's almost 100 years old, and the person that I bought it from was considering selling it to a developer. So this was a way to make sure it stayed in the community. I think it's a great community asset, and so that was really the reason, the main reason to purchase it. But the kind of the real story, the backstory of it all. So back in the late 1930s and early 1940s, teams had come to the Midwest, and because travel was more difficult, they'd stay in the Midwest and play the Packers one week and the Bears the next. And their teams would stay up in Door County, and they practiced on the 11th. The LA Rams practiced on the 11th fairway of Maxwell and Braze. So I think we're going to put yardage stripes on the fairway. Yeah.
Thanks again for being here. Two-part question. You can answer them in any order. We saw it with the draft, but what would it take, and will we ever see a Super Bowl in Green Bay?
Hell no. Well, here, well, a couple things. Out to Green Bay in February, weather's not ideal. And I hope this never happens. If Green Bay ever had a dome stadium, then there's a possibility you could get it. But I think there's not enough hotel rooms. I don't think Green Bay probably has the hotel rooms or the infrastructure that they would look for hosting a Super Bowl. So, I mean, I basically, our Super Bowl just happened with the draft. I think in the league's mind, that was, I've joked, Ed Policy, I think apparently there are 20 NFL cities that have petitioned the league to host it, host the draft. So it's gonna be quite a while. I said maybe your last act as president will be hosting the next draft. So because Ed's like 52, I think. So probably the draft went so well. Quite honestly, I think the league was surprised how well it went, and obviously the numbers, and so I do think Green Bay will host another draft, but it could be quite a while. Yeah, good question.
Well, there you go. We got a draft, maybe not a Super Bowl, unless a dome stadium came to Lambeau, but I don't think the Packer fans want that anytime soon. While Mark Murphy continues to take questioning, we are going to switch gears real quick on the Wisconsin Live Desk because someone just stepped into an appearance, a virtual appearance in this case, for a court appearance. This is Matthew Novak, and to get you a little bit more information on this, he is the person accused in the Fredonia standoff that lasted almost 38 hours, as you can see, appearing virtually in court here. But this appearance today is in Ozaukee County. The Ozaukee County Sheriff's Office was the one to arrest Matthew Novak of Fredonia in custody at the Ozaukee County Jail, but making that initial appearance in court today. As you see people getting situated there in the courtroom, just a quick recap here. This was a tactical situation that started on a Thursday, May 8th, and lasted nearly 38 hours, like I said, well into Saturday morning in this otherwise quiet Fredonia neighborhood, May 10th. Now, initially, police got a 911 call that there was someone kind of barricaded in this home and firing shots. The Ozaukee County Sheriff's Office says that the man was extremely dangerous. They found a series of guns and ammunition as well as other weaponry in that home. Ended up using water to get him out eventually. But let's listen to the judge and the attorneys in the courtroom.
By Zoom.
All right, this is an initial appearance. Counsel, do you have a copy of the complaint?
I do, Your Honor. I have reviewed it and I waive formal reading.
All right, thank you. The court has reviewed the probable cause section and on its face will find probable cause. The address listed on the complaint is the correct address for your claim?
Yes, Your Honor.
We're here to set bail in a preliminary hearing from the state.
Your Honor, I'm asking that the court order that he be held on $1 million cash bail with conditions to include that he maintain absolute sobriety, that he not use or possess any controlled substances, that he have no contact with the individuals listed in the no contact order that is proposed and on file with the court, that he not possess any firearms, and that he had absolutely no contact in person or otherwise with the village of Fredonia if he's able to post bail on this matter. The law enforcement thus far has identified 19 individuals that I believe qualify for victim rights on this case, and the reality is the defendant's conduct here related to the discharge of weapons and the standoff that ensued with law enforcement had an extreme impact on the members of the community, specifically the individuals that live closest to him. And I think there's a considerable amount of fear in the community if he is released from custody. We had individuals here who were sheltering in place in their home for over a day. Many of them concerned that and trying to take steps to ensure that if bullets were fired, that they might come through the walls of their residence. We had individuals who were escorted away from the residence by law enforcement and were unable to return home based on the defendant's behavior. He engaged in very specific threats to kill law enforcement officers. He indicated he was took a strategic position in his home in order to fire on anyone if they were to come inside. Thankfully, the sheriff's office handled this situation in a manner which did not result in loss of life, but that was a significant miss based on the defendant's conduct. He also was very heavily armed and had tools in his possession that would have that inhibited law enforcement officers' attempts to bring him into custody. Subsequent investigation after he was apprehended showed a preoccupation with law enforcement, preoccupation with the federal government. The defendant was engaging in target practice, utilizing photographs of 2 Democratic governors of other states.
As you're seeing quite the scene there play out in an Ozaukee County courtroom, we also want to apologize for some of the profanity you just saw, the symbol of profanity there from Matthew Novak, the person accused in this case. Quite the response. I'm just using my shoulder there to cover up more of that feed that we have. Seemed to be fist pumping when the prosecutors in this case made their request of $1 million bail, seemed to be pointing up a 1 for $1 million, and then I believe there at the end was even flashing 2A, often a reference to the Second Amendment and the right to bear arms there. For a little bit of background on this, Matthew Novak, going back to Thursday, May 8th, was barricaded into his home in Fredonia. There was a tactical situation that played out over the next 2 days, close to 38 hours in that otherwise quiet neighborhood, with shots being fired, and the Ozaukee County Sheriff's Office saying that man was barricaded in his home. At times, there was thoughts that there was loud music playing, firing weapons, including an automatic weapon. At one point, they end up using a fire hose and water from the fire department to kind of blast into that home and eventually get Matthew Novak out of the home. He is now charged with a series of very serious crimes, including battery or threat to a law enforcement officer, endangering safety by use of a dangerous weapon, first-degree reckless endangering safety, and failure to comply with a law enforcement officer's attempt to take a person into custody. And as you can see, putting on quite the scene from that virtual appearance today in his initial appearance in Ozaukee County. We're going to take another break here on the Wisconsin Live Desk, see what else we find for you on the other side. Thanks a lot for watching and bearing with us here.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, Carl Defenbaugh back with you on the Wisconsin Live Desk. Just a few more minutes here in my hour of the show, and then Kimberly Murphy will be taking over. I don't know why I just said Kimberly. I think that's the first time in many years anchoring with her I've said that. Kim Murphy will be taking over for me at 1:30, running through the Wisconsin Live Desk until 2:30. We're covering the different news of the day, and we're certainly going to get you more updates about what's happening inside of the Milwaukee County Courthouse today when it comes to day one of the jury selection for the Maxwell Anderson trial. But our Aaron Maben joined us earlier in this hour discussing some of the visuals, the different look that Maxwell Anderson had in court today from what we had seen in an initial booking photo more than a year ago now. And I wanted to show you a couple of those pictures from his first court appearance. So first and foremost, let me show you the original picture. This was his booking photo as Maxwell Anderson we're seeing what's happening today. At least 70 potential jurors were brought into that courtroom. Aaron Maben said that has been brought down now to about 40, but eventually they'll have to whittle that down to 12 jurors with 3 alternates as part of the panel hearing this trial. So this is the picture on the left that all of us have seen of Maxwell Anderson when he was accused of these horrific crimes, the murder of Sade Robinson and the dismemberment of her body after that. And then today, the first day of jury selection, this is how Maxwell Anderson appeared in court. You notice a stark difference today. Aaron mentioned the haircut, close cropped along the sides, a little bit longer on top, but not nearly as long as his hair was. And then clean shaven as well, as we show you another picture of him with his defense team there. One other quick side-by-side, I'll show you once again the original booking photo on the left that we were operating with after Sade Robinson's disappearance, April of 2024, and then more than a year later, how Maxwell Anderson appeared in court today for day one of jury selection. That jury selection expected to last well into today, probably into tomorrow. Remains to be seen when opening statements will begin in this trial, but when they do, we will carry that and the rest of the trial, witness testimony and the like, for you live here on Fox Local. All right, we want to take another short break for you here on the Wisconsin Live Desk. We'll see what we find on the other side, and then get you ready for Kim Murphy joining at 1:30 today. That's after this break on the Wisconsin Live Desk.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
Hey, welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk. Carl Deffenbaugh with you here for just a couple more minutes on this Tuesday afternoon. So many people getting back to work, to school, to life after the Memorial Day weekend. That goes for the spokesperson of the Department of State as well. We are going to get you out to Tammy Bruce, who just stepped to the podium recently, taking questions from reporters there. She is the spokesperson for the State Department, taking questions on a number of different things, this briefing for the department's foreign policy and the like. I want to use this as our transition period. Kimberly Murphy did it one more time. Kim Murphy standing by. She is not in trouble. She's about to take over the live desk, hopefully not getting us in trouble for the next hour. So take a listen to Tammy Bruce at the State Department briefing, and Kim Murphy will be with you on the other side.
Constructive as well, and we made further progress. Both sides have agreed to meet again in the near future, and we are grateful to, once again, our Omani partners for their continued facilitation of the process. All right? Yes, dear.
Just to follow up on the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation, because
Sure.
I think you talked about independence and neutrality that was involved in this new foundation, but I mean, quite clearly that's not the case. I mean, the IDF itself has said this has been done in coordination with it and the foundation, so it's clearly being done, and the security of it is carried out by, on the perimeter, Israeli forces and then American security contractors. The problem with that, and what all the experts in the United Nations say, is that you therefore have a situation where the aid is provided by an organization that seems to be a party to the conflict, and that's what the UN has always avoided, because you potentially made the recipients targets. And we're seeing that already, potentially, in that this has become a very militarized form of aid. So I'm just interested in why you describe this as independent and neutral when it clearly doesn't appear to be so.
Well, again, I don't speak for this foundation. What I can tell you is the description of the nature of what they're accomplishing, which is getting food and aid into that region. I'll say that just one more time. There are some disagreements about how that's being handled, how that's being implemented. But I think that most of us would agree that this is good news, that it, in any other mechanism under any other expectation, was not able to accomplish this. So it's
just that there was another mechanism that was able to accomplish this and more.
Well, you know, when you're right, we did have a really good mechanism. It was called a ceasefire, which Hamas broke. And it is a ceasefire and a plan that had been operating and offered, which they continually refused to accept, continued to hold hostages, as they still continue to not just hold hostages, but the bodies of the people that they've murdered. And they've refused to do the one thing that could stop this in a moment. They've refused. So we did. We had, it was a ceasefire, and Special Envoy Witkoff, very successful, and Hamas decided, well, that was just too much of that. So the real story here is that there's food aid going in. There will be people, of course, who will look at some of the details and not like it. But then I think it shows us the priorities of certain individuals when it comes to, at first it was, let's get these people fed, and now it seems to be something else in the meantime. Yes, sir, go ahead.
Thank you, Tammy.
Yes. Wait, no, sir. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know who's speaking, but go ahead.
Thank you, Tammy. Last week I asked you a question about the deals signed between the Kurdistan region government and 2 U.S. firms.
You know what? We need to turn his microphone up, and you've got to keep your head up.
I'll repeat the question.
Keep your head up.
Last week I asked you a question about the recent deals signed between the Kurdistan region government and 2 U.S. firms, the nature deals. And you encouraged Baghdad to work with Erbil to resolve the issues. But this week, the Iraqi oil ministry has filed lawsuits against the 2 deals with the American firms. So any reaction to that, and how this impacts the U.S. firms' incentive to invest in the region? And I have another question regarding
Yes, last week we discussed some of the difficulties here, but as I said last week, worth repeating today with this new news, is that the United States supports economic deals that benefit all Iraqis, including the 2 announced last week. We encourage Baghdad and Erbil to work together to expand domestic gas production as soon as possible. These types of economic partnerships will benefit both the American and Iraqi peoples and help Iraq move toward energy independence. U.S. oil companies have invested billions of dollars in the Iraqi Kurdistan region's oil sector, We hope to see additional investment from U.S. oil companies throughout Iraq. We know, of course, last week, Secretary of State Marco Rubio met with Iraqi Kurdistan Regional Government Prime Minister Mansour Barzani in Washington, also on Friday, May 23rd, a busy day here. Secretary Rubio and Prime Minister Barzani discussed opportunities to further increase trade and investment between the United States and the Iraqi Kurdistan region. The Secretary commended the Prime Minister for finalizing deals with U.S. companies to expand natural gas production in the IKR, which will help Iraq move toward energy independence. The Secretary and Prime Minister discussed their mutual interests in protecting the rights of religious and ethnic minorities in Iraq and Syria. The Secretary also reaffirmed U.S. support for a strong and resilient IKR as a foundational pillar of the relationship between that the United States enjoys with Iraq. We also believe that U.S. and Iraqi interests are best served by having a strong, resilient Iraqi Kurdistan region within a sovereign and prosperous federal Iraq, and we continue to support U.S. companies doing business in all of Iraq, including trade and investment between the United States and the IKR. As far as the nature of the lawsuits, it's, again, obviously we are looking forward to continuing these kinds of deals. We expect these kinds of deals to flourish and expect and would hope that they would be facilitated. But it's, again, we've got to underscore the importance of an independent, an energy independent region, and this is one way that we're going to be able to do it.
And another question on Iraq,
sure.
Yeah, in separate issue. Do you confirm if there's any U.S. involvement in any negotiations with Iraq to release Elizabeth Tsurkov, an Israeli Russian academy kidnapped nearly 2 years ago in Baghdad? Has the Israeli government requested assistance from the U.S. government in this regard?
I do have something I can tell you on this. There is some reports regarding an exchange discussed. Those reports are categorically false, although we remain committed to existing discussions regarding her, and we have and will continue to underscore with the Iraqi government the urgency of securing her release. That is Elizabeth Tsurkov's release. All right, yes.
Today in Turkey, Foreign Minister Lavrov suggested there was some sort of prisoner exchange deal between Presidents Putin and Trump. Is there any light you can shed onto that?
No, there's nothing. I have nothing to report to you about that. Not at all.
There's reporting that the administration may require all foreign students to undergo social media vetting, and that embassies and consulates are pausing interviews for new student visas, according to a cable from Secretary Rubio. Is that accurate, and do you have any other information?
Well, if you're discussing that, that's something that has not been discussed publicly. It would have to be leaked material if it exists. What I can remind everyone of, which we've discussed for months here, is that we use every tool in our tool chest to vet anyone coming in who wants to come into this country, and in order to do so, it has to apply for a visa.
And here we are. Getting some direction in my ear. There you go. So I am Kim Murphy, if you didn't just hear, and we are following a lot of things that are going on. But Tammy Bruce with the State Department was answering questions from reporters on a variety of things, and this is just a chance for reporters to get a chance, an audience to answer and get their questions answered on a variety. This is the second week now that we've heard a lot of discussion or questioning about Iraq, the relationship and agreements that may be in the works between the United States and Iraq. So that is an important area that we're focusing on. But of course, here at home, the big story is the Maxwell Anderson trial, which right now is the first day of jury selection. And so we're going to remind you of some of the things that are going to happen here. We started off the morning with at least 70 potential jurors. Already this morning in the first half of the day, we understand that 30 have been dismissed right away, and so now we're looking at a potential pool of 40 jurors. This has to be whittled down further to 12 jurors and 3 alternates. They will all be impaneled. And so the trial itself is expected to take 2 weeks. That's the guess. But of course, this could end shorter, it could go quicker, or it could last longer. Some interesting things that we are learning first about who is involved in this case. Maxwell Anderson does have counsel. I want to bring up another image here of him earlier today. Let's see if we can bring that there. Looking different than his booking picture and some of the earlier court appearances. His hair clearly a lot shorter, just a very different person. And we've not yet, to my knowledge, heard Maxwell Anderson speak. And so I think a lot of people will be interested to hear if they get the chance to hear his voice. But his attorney there is Anthony D. Cotton. That name sounds familiar. He is also the attorney who represented Morgan Geyser. She is one of the now young women who was convicted in the Slender Man stabbing. So he has retained a high-profile attorney in this, and that attorney is Anthony D. Cotton. So you will be hearing that name. The prosecutor in this case is Ian Vance Curzon. He will be prosecuting this case for the state, and the judge, the circuit court judge, is Laura Crivello. So all of this is happening in Judge Crivello's courtroom, and this is just day 1. And so right now, as we understand it, we have 40 people now that are being considered as potential jurors. And here's another shot from inside the courtroom earlier today. And this process, again, there is a close-up of Attorney Cotton, again, a familiar face. He has years. This case with Morgan Geyser has spanned years, and he has been her attorney, and he's often been very willing to talk to the media about the case and what the plan is and how they're moving forward. So we'll be looking to hear from him perhaps at some points of this trial. We don't know, but just to get you familiar with some of the players in this. There's the judge. Again, her name is Judge Laura Crivello. Interesting, if you've ever been a part of jury selection, you have no idea which trial that you are actually coming to court for. All you know is that you've been called for jury duty, and your name is called, and you end up in a courtroom, and only at that point are you kind of given some of the details that this case involves a homicide. And then the questions, have you ever been anyone in your family, has anyone in your family been a victim of homicide? Do you have, or friends or anything? So they try to find immediate things that would perhaps result in a bias of that juror, and then that person is immediately, and a lot of times, stricken from that. So, took you back to the State Department. So it's a Tuesday, but it's really a Monday for me, so bear with me here. So we are keeping an eye on that. Another thing, so we're just off of the heels of a big travel weekend, and hopefully you had an easy flight or drive wherever you are off to or wherever you went. But some big news from Southwest Airlines. Now, we knew this was coming. Southwest announced this back in March, that they were ending the bags fly free policy. So today is the last day that you can book a flight and your bags fly free. So it's not the last day you can fly, your bags fly free, but it's the last, you would have had to have booked your flight before tomorrow. So today is the last day to book a flight for your bags to fly free. If you don't, $35 for that first checked bag. And I don't know about you, I love Southwest. Like the open seating was always, big with me and my family. The bags flying free saved you $70 or so. So if you are looking to book and you haven't booked a flight in a while, be prepared for a little bit of a shock when all of a sudden that fare is maybe a little bit more than you had anticipated for some place that you've gone before for a reasonable amount of money. So be prepared for that. Another big thing that is happening, President Trump and the Harvard feud continue. President Trump and the administration, Homeland Security, they are demanding a list of names of foreign students who are at the university, and the university has said that it has complied with that request and surrendered those names, but Homeland Security says not to the satisfaction of the government. And so the latest development in this back and forth is that President Trump has threatened to cut $700 million in federal contracts to Harvard. And this is on the heels of another move this past week where a program that enables Harvard and other universities to attract international students, their ability to participate in that program was paused for a moment. Harvard sued, a judge agreed and temporarily stayed that so that Harvard could continue enrolling international students. But they say this is not only a financial blow to the university, but also the science, the research, the contributions that come from attracting international students to the university. And Harvard is the oldest and wealthiest university in the United States. And so this is very important to who the university is. The fact that it does attract a pool, a genius pool, you can say, of students from not just in the United States, but from around the world. So stay tuned to find out if there will be more in that. But again, the crux of the issue is that the administration wants a list of international students who are studying at Harvard, and Harvard at first refused and then complied, but the Homeland Security Department says not to its satisfaction. So we're going to take a little break here, and we'll be back with more.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk for this Tuesday. It is the last Tuesday of May, and then we're marching right on into June. Let's take a look at the stock market. That's been interesting today. Interesting in a good way. You can see those numbers. New York Stock Exchange is up more than 700 points, and so that's good news. It's been the strategy, if you have ever worked with anyone who is a financial planner, they say, you know, if you have that time in the markets, that you're not retiring anytime soon, it's kind of best to kind of like leave it, invest, leave it, and don't watch it day to day, because you will have heart palpitations the way it goes up and the way it goes down. There's just been so much going on and so much concern with the tariffs and what impact that would have. And Carrie, remind me of which, okay. And there we go, stock market increase. So that's some good news. We certainly like to see those numbers in the positive territory. And hopefully they continue to go that way. We're going to check back in with the State Department and listen in a little bit to some of the questions that are coming in to give you kind of an idea of some of the big stories that may be developing this week. Let's listen in.
Certainly has refused to stop that violence, but go ahead.
But just in the past few days, we've seen the silhouette of a little girl trying to flee burning classrooms surrounding her, killing people around her. We've seen thousands of Palestinians starved by Israel's blockade, herded between fences as they try to get fed today. A doctor who saw 9 of her children killed by Israeli bombs. All the while, this administration, of course, as we've seen, has sought to deport students who protest this, including one student who wrote an op-ed against this kind of behavior. The administration came in telling Americans it would be more pro-peace, more anti-war than the previous.
This is beginning to sound like a soliloquy, sir. Do you have a question, please? Do you have a question, please?
I'm curious.
Yes, that's a very serious issue, and everyone has your question.
Yes.
So please ask it.
I wonder how you see this administration being more pro-peace or more anti-war than the previous administration, given these kinds of horrors that Americans are witnessing.
Yes, well, it is a dynamic where, as I also just mentioned a little bit ago, we did achieve a ceasefire, something which nobody thought would be possible after the heinousness of October 7th, the nature of what had occurred on that day, the fact that there has to be a new way, the president has stated, we have to have new ideas to make a difference so this stops and doesn't go from generation to generation, which all of us have experienced. It's right, wash, rinse, and repeat over and over and over again, every 20 years. And it would never stop. I think that what we've got here is after, I don't know, what has it been, 3 months, a bit over 100 days of President Trump, managing to get, I think, every warring party, every hostile party against other people on this planet to a table to stop. Now, that's the simple part. Making things happen and making it last is another thing. Hamas, we did have a ceasefire. And then Hamas decided once again that that was just not going to do, and they continue to do what they do. That, first of all, again, regarding the particular issues over the last few days, we call on all parties to this conflict to take every feasible measure to mitigate civilian harm. We refer you to Israel for more information on its airstrikes. And we also know, as we all do, and this is one of the things that we've discovered time and time again, that Hamas uses hospitals and other humanitarian areas as human shields. This is why we continue to try to get a ceasefire done, despite the obstacles that Hamas constantly presents. It is apparently their hope that we would just give up and go away, or that the usual status quo would continue. But President Trump is not that person. He's a person who gets it done. And after decades of conflict, I understand you're frustrated after maybe 3 months of it not being perfect yet. But that is what we are going for. We will continue to work for this. It is President Trump's commitment. Yes, Eric, please. Eric, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Tammy, for the question. I wanted to ask you, the end of last week we reported, and you began...
And you're Bloomberg, for those watching who don't know. Go ahead.
You began the conversation today, or excuse me, the briefing today, with a reference to Venezuela and to the challenges faced by Americans in Venezuela, the repression of the Venezuelan regime.
Correct.
The license for Chevron to produce oil in Venezuela expired yesterday. Our reporting is that there's a very narrow license for basic maintenance to make sure that equipment that's in the country doesn't become completely unusable, so that one day if there's a change of government, it might be possible to drill and produce again. This is a license that would have to come from the administration. Do you have anything on that as far as whether that's been granted?
I can't speak to that at all, but what I can say is actually your timeline on the Chevron license is wrong. It's tonight at 11:59.
Gotcha.
So this is the last hurrah here that will expire at 11:59 this evening. What we can say, of course, also is that, just to be very specific, we, beyond the warning, of course, to Americans, is that we will not allow any money to move to the Maduro regime that assists their regime. We are, of course, very conscious of the dynamic.
Again, you're getting a little bit of just what goes on in the State Department and some of those briefings. The questions range anywhere from Venezuela to what is happening in the Israel-Hamas war to what is going on between the U.S. and Iraq. So that can sometimes get a little contentious, as you just heard. We, before this, talked about the stock market. So I want to show you again what's going on. And we are in the positive territory, which is some good news. You may wonder why that is. Well, it comes on the heels of the President Trump, delaying the 50% tariffs on the European Union. He's paused that until July 9th. So the 50% tariffs on things that come from Europe, that has been paused until July 9th. The European Union, in turn, has agreed to fast-track their trade talks with the U.S. So this is why we're seeing some good news on the stock market, the New York Stock Exchange. Friday was a not so good day. We had some losses on Friday. So to start the week on the stock market with some positive numbers is a good thing for us. So back out here, want to again bring you up to date of what is going on. One of the big stories that we are following, of course, is the start, or the jury selection has started for the Maxwell Anderson trial. It's been about a year since this case grabbed our attention, our hearts and our minds, and this has just been a long time for Sade Robinson's family. And so what happens now, we started off with 70 potential jurors, which is double the number which is usually called for a case like this. The goal is to get down to 12 jurors with 3 alternates, and after that they will be what's called empaneled. They will be seated in the jury box. Right now, our latest understanding from this morning is that they're already down to 40. So right off the bat, 30 people were dismissed from the jury pool selection. You're taking a look, that's Maxwell Anderson. As he appears today, different from the Maxwell Anderson that we saw in his original booking photo. And that is his attorney. That's something else that is of note. Somewhat famous attorney, Anthony D. Cotton. He represented Morgan Geyser. She is the young lady, one of the 2 young ladies, women who were convicted in the Slender Man stabbing. And so he is now taking on another high-profile case, it seems, and he will be representing Maxwell Anderson. We also know who the judge in this case is going to be. That's going to be Circuit Court Judge Laura Crivello. Laura Crivello is overseeing this case, which is expected to take 2 weeks. Could take less time, it could take more time. We do know that the state has more than 250 witnesses who could testify. Doesn't mean that all 250 will, but they do have a very extensive list of potential witnesses. If you follow this case at all on Fox Local, you know that this case, it would seem, was pieced together with a lot of digital technology, phone pings, surveillance video from a bus, that sort of thing. And so we're going to hear experts. You can expect to hear experts testify for the prosecution on the validity of these pieces of evidence, but you're also going to hear from the defense, who may try to argue that, you know, anything can be, you know, not exact. Cell phone pings sometimes will ping off another tower if one is overloaded. So, you know, is that proof positive that the phone was where it said it was? So you're going to hear a lot of technical information being presented, and that's why we have our team of experts. We're going to be joined by 2 attorneys each night on Fox 6 News at 9 and 10 to talk about what went on during the day. And we're also going to tap into our reporters. Our Bria Jones first has reported extensively on the Sade Robinson disappearance from the very beginning, and put together 5 impressive stories about what led to the discovery and how we got to this week's trial. And you can find all of those stories either on YouTube or on Fox Local. So we invite you to check those things out. But that's what's happening right now. The second half of the day just got started around 1:35, and so we'll see how long this goes. It's possible, if they're moving this quickly, that those 12 jurors could be selected with the 3 alternates by the end of the day. We'll just have to wait and see, but that's where we are right now in the Maxwell Anderson case. Another story that we have been following, that jailbreak that happened down in Louisiana. Well, there were some developments. Law enforcement does not take a day off just because it was a holiday. 2 inmates are still on the run. 10 broke out back on May 16th. This has been quite the story. They escaped through the hole of a toilet in a cell. They convinced a maintenance worker at the jail to turn off the water to the cell, and that allowed them to remove the toilet without flooding it. And they escaped through the hole, 10 of them, and they've been on the run. 2 of them are still on the run. The other 8 have now been captured, but 2 of those escapees were arrested in Texas. They made it all the way to Texas on Monday morning, and then 1 escapee was captured in Baton Rouge. And with that escape, 5 people are now looking at charges for aiding a felon. So we continue to follow this story, but one of the things that kind of stuck out, not only did these guys break out of jail, and they were captured on video while the guard who was supposed to keep an eye, video surveillance, was getting something to eat. They had time to write on the wall of their cell, "Too easy, LOL," and marks off for grammar. They spelled "too," T-O, easy, LOL, instead of T-O-O. Anyway, that's what they did. So 2 inmates are still on the run, but this has been a nonstop operation in New Orleans to bring all 10 to justice, because we are talking about some very dangerous people. Several of those escapees are wanted for murder or charged with murder. And so as that develops, we'll keep you up to date. We're going to take a little break right now, and we'll be back.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk for this Tuesday. Thanks for stopping in to find out what's happening locally and across the country. And right now we're going to take you to Discovery World. Remember when you were in school, high school, grade school, the end of the year was just great. You got field days, chances to go out and take the classroom from inside to the outdoors. Well, that's what's happening right now at Discovery World. And our photographer, Eddie Poser, is there. And so, Bo Geiger, excuse me. Hey, Bo. Let's take a look at what's going on there. This is part of a competition right now that is happening at Discovery World. 10 all-hands boat works. These students will launch 9 of those new boats at 3 separate events this week. It's to celebrate their hard work, and their boat building mentors will be there who help construct and consult on their wooden boats over the past school year. So this is pretty cool. This is the culmination of, STEM education right there, hands-on. The boats were built either on site at various schools or through after-school programs. Altogether, more than 50 students took part in building 9 boats. And each launch celebration will take place this week at Discovery World around 1:40 our time. And right now, the El Puente High School students will launch their Echo Bay Dory skiff. Each student also built an exact scale model of the same boat, and then their projects were completed as part of their semester-long STEM to Stern workshop. And so that's pretty awesome to see what they've done, worked on for an entire year. I'm going to come back to you so you don't get a little woozy as we find our place there. But the school year is wrapping up for a lot of area schools, but the excitement isn't. You have projects that a lot of kids have worked on all semester long, if not all year long. And so this is when they actually get a chance to present their projects, whether it be musical presentations. 4th graders, I know, they do like an around the world event where they study a country and they present it. So it's a real cool time for students and teachers when they get to show off and share with you some of the things that they've been working on to show you how education is developing and still going strong in southeastern Wisconsin. So I think it's simmered down a little bit, and there you go. Again, these are students from El Puente High School. They have spent the year building their boats. And I'm gonna try to bump up some of the audio to see if we can hear. Unfortunately, we're not getting any sound from that. Oh, there you go.
Tradition done all over the world. Really important part of launching a boat because you're asking for safety, you're acknowledging the boat, and then you're really, and like the most important part for us is celebrating all the work that y'all put into it. It's beautiful. It's one of the prettiest boats we've ever made. I think that's an amazing job, and we want to celebrate that before we launch it.
And so you're listening to the pre-launch instructions from instructor there, but this is pretty cool. These are the students from El Puente High School, and they're going to launch their 12-foot Echo Bay Dory skiff. I don't know what it is, but it looks pretty sturdy to me. And they've spent a whole year, part of a STEM to Stern shop class, learning how to build these boats. And what's even more impressive, you see the students there, they have on their life jackets. They're actually going to get in their craft. They're going to see how far they can go as they launch from Discovery World. So that's pretty cool. It's not just a model here. It's also something that potentially is, going to be able to float. So we're going to keep our eye on this situation, but 9 classes actually were part of this. And I don't know, I think for my end of the school year project, we made a purse on a sewing machine. Not saying that that was easy, but my, have we come a very long way from sewing purses to boats. So as they get closer to the water and get ready to launch, we'll definitely bring you that. But this is happening down at Discovery World, so if you have some time in the next hour or so and you just want to see some cool stuff happening down at the lake, this is one of the things that is happening. Again, we have been following what's going on downtown with the Maxwell Anderson case. So I'm going to bring in Aaron Mabin right now. He has been inside the courtroom following this. Aaron, good to see you there. I know that they took a break. What's happened this second half so far?
Well, things are really rocking and rolling inside of the courtroom right now, Kim. We were up after the break. We went up there and the whole jury questionnaire process began. I can tell you right now, the judge, right before I stepped out, was up on the stand and she was going through a questionnaire, this voir dire process, asking the jurors a number of questions. There are 40 people inside the courtroom and the judge is now reading out all the witnesses listed on the witness list to the jurors to see if any of the jury members or the potential jurors know any of the witnesses. And we had two stopping moments during it. Let me tell you about the first one. It is when they got to a Milwaukee County Sheriff's deputy and the judge said, does anyone know who this deputy is? And a man stood up and he said, I went to college with this deputy. I have not talked to him in 5 years. And the judge stopped it and they did this back and forth like, okay, when was the last time? What was your last interaction? Have you kept in touch? Is that going to make you an impartial juror at all? So that was the first time they stopped this, and then he sat back down. Then we got to a second time where someone stopped. Do you recognize any of these names? And a man stood up and he said that he knew a Milwaukee police officer from when the time that they went ice skating together 3 years ago. And the judge then did the same questioning. Well, when was your last interaction with them? I'm guessing because you haven't seen this person in 3 years, you're probably not good friends. Is this going to hinder your ability to be a partial juror? And that person said no, so he sat back down. So that's the type of things that are happening right now, Kim. They're going down the list one by one. This is a hefty list, about 250 people that the state has presented, and they're asking the jury of 40 people, do you know these names? If you know the name, then this stopping happens, and the judge then asks questions to those people. Kim?
Let me ask you, who is in the courtroom? Have you been able to make out? I know that Sade Robinson's mom has pledged that she's going to be here every day, but who else is in the courtroom?
So let's start on that side. Behind Sade Robinson's family, behind the state, there, Sade Robinson's mother is there along with her father and some other family members. They're taking about 2 rows, but it's not 2 full rows. It's about 2 half rows that they're taking up. Behind them, Kim, are former workers, former employees who worked with Sade Robinson. And then we get to people who are from the community, but again, they're sprinkled in and out. So about 10 people who are from the community who have really been invested in this case. One woman telling me that she lost her daughter and she is really standing behind Sade Robinson's mother during this very difficult time. And then the media is taking up 2 rows too. So that's behind the state. Now we get to the defense. This is Maxwell Anderson and his team. In that first row, there's Maxwell Anderson's father, his mother, and a woman associated with the family. The second row is empty. And, let's go about another row back, and there are 2 people who are just from the community. They just wanted to be in the courtroom. When I talked to those people who were in the community, one told me that he's actually associated with the local hospital system and he just found this case very fascinating. And earlier this morning, we did see Homestead High School seniors were taking a class field trip and they decided to be in the courtroom. So we know that this case has brought the family out, but also a number of community members, including some students, Kim.
Do you get the sense that it's going to be difficult to find those 12 jurors and 3 alternates?
So I want to show you this right here. This is the jury questionnaire that I have. I love to show you my setup right here. I have my laptop here. I'm following the court as it's happening. A little inside baseball. Bill Miss is in the courtroom taking notes. So if anything happens, I'm able to just reset my computer and I'll give you guys kind of the latest information. But here we have the jury questionnaire that 73 people got this morning. 73 jurors came in early this morning. They had to sit down and they had to read this. And as we go through this jury questionnaire, there is a moment where they talk about the media influence, and they talk about, have you seen this case? I just think this is what the judge, the attorneys worked on this, and it's like, this case involves an allegation that Maxwell Anderson committed the homicide of Sade Robinson. The case has received media attention. Have you read or heard anything about this case or the defendant from any source, such as a newspaper, television, or radio, social media? People likely hit yes. They could have put no. If yes, what have you heard or read, and from what source? So they're really trying to get a sense of how people heard about this, how much they consume this, and is it going to get in the way at all of them making a decision that's going to be fair? So what also stands out, how closely have you followed this story? 0 to 10, how closely have you followed this story, and have you formed any impression or opinion regarding this case? If yes, what impression or opinion? That's what 73 people got this morning. They sat down, they took that number, they've whittled it down to 40 people. It's about 23 women, 17 men. That number could be off. It's really hard to see the full jury right now, but we know that they have answered that question, and likely, you know, they are aware of this case, but it's, you know, how aware of this case are they, and is it going to influence their decision when it's time to reach a verdict?
Since we are on the Wisconsin Live Desk or Wild, let's give our viewers a little bit of insight. So the thing that you're taking out of your ear, that's your earpiece.
Yeah. So it's an IFB, and I'm dealing with what we call kind of mixed minus. So I'm hearing myself as I talk. I can power through it, but I think there's so much to this case that I want to be accurate, so I don't want to distract myself at all. So I just pop this out, I go through this, and as I'm wrapping up, I'm able to kind of put it back on my ear. It's a little bit of like a second delay. I can hear you clearly, but there is a delay that can be really distracting, and I just want to be really as focused as possible going through this, Kim.
I think you're amazing. And again, I'm just giving people an understanding of our job in this and how we cover this. And so the judge has rules. She's trying to keep this as orderly and, you know, calm as possible. So you're not allowed to really run in and out. You know, there are breaks when you can move around, but other than that, you're planted in that courtroom.
And I have to say, this judge has been very lenient. There are judges, Kim, who, when that door closes, they really want you to stop and pay attention, and they don't like a lot of media going in and out. I have been able to pop out maybe twice today, not during a break, but judges really don't want anyone to be distracted. I think that things are a little bit looser right now because they're still going through the jury questionnaire process, and we're not in the heart of this case. They're not into this testimony and the evidence when they really want that jury to be focused on those TV screens and not distracted by people going in and out of the courtroom. I've been in a lot of courtrooms where the judge has kind of put the hammer down, like, hey, there's too much movement, there's too much talking happening. I will tell you, we had a moment earlier when we were waiting. The jury was still figuring out this questionnaire, and people in the media were talking, people in the courtroom were talking, and one of the deputies had to come out and say, hey, this is still a courtroom, you guys got to bring your volume down. So there is definitely order in this courtroom today.
Okay, I just have to ask you one more question before we go to break. The defense attorney, Anthony Cotton, we've seen him before. He was represented Morgan Geyser. Was that a surprise to you when you were in the courtroom?
You know, it wasn't a surprise just because we've been following this from the beginning, and he has been with this for some time. He has covered a lot of high-profile cases in our area, you know, over the last few years. We know that kind of connected to the Kyle Rittenhouse case, there was a man with the last name of Black. I'm blanking at the moment. He was also a defense attorney for him at the time. So he's done a lot of high-profile cases in this area. And what I want to note is he's not coming by himself. He also has another attorney with him, and they are coming with these big boxes. And Eddie, can we show this one more time down here? This is what we use for our cameras, our live streaming, other stuff. Attorneys have this for all their evidence. So we are seeing wagons just like this that attorneys are putting evidence boxes in here as they're wheeling tons of evidence inside of the courtroom. The defense is using a wagon, the prosecution, the state, they're using a rollie, like a little rollie thing with them. And so they have 3 boxes stacked up, and they're all rolling it in different ways. They don't want to lift all the heavy boxes filled with papers and all the evidence from April through on.
Like we said, the state possibly, they have a list of 250 witnesses. Not sure if all 250 will be called, but there's a lot of material to cover
they
here.
won't.
Aaron, thank you so much. I know you want to get back inside and catch up with what's going on. We will check back in with you. We'll have updates. We've got a crew down there covering this from gavel to gavel. So thank you so much for taking some time for the Wisconsin Live Desk. And we're going to take a break.
This is the Wisconsin Live Desk.
And welcome back to the Wisconsin Live Desk for this Tuesday. We're also following a story that happened this weekend, a wrong-way crash in Ozaukee County. 2 people were killed, 1 person was injured. And our Christina Van Zelst is following this story, and she joins us with an update on what exactly happened in court today. Christina.
Yeah, Kim, we just wrapped up a really emotional interview with a family member of the husband and wife that were killed. So today, really, we're learning a lot more about who was in that car. And we know that the wrong-way driver is a 34-year-old man from Milwaukee who was seriously hurt. So he has not been through court at this time. We are currently at the Ozaukee County Sheriff's Office waiting for any kind of update that they can give us on his condition and also what type of charges, if any, might be filed. But when it comes to our update today, we talked with the sister of Jay Horn. Jay Horn is one of the people that was killed in this crash. His sister Pauline tells us that it was Jay Horn and his wife Nicole Horn who were actually picking up their daughter Alyssa Horn from the airport. They tell us that she was coming back from a wedding that she was standing up in. So they went to the Milwaukee airport to pick her up, and they were on their way home, so close to home. They live in Ozaukee County, and both the husband and wife, Nicole and Jay, did pass away in this wrong-way crash. This happened on I-43 near Jay Road, and their daughter, Alyssa, who was also in the vehicle, she's a 22-year-old. She is expected to be okay. We talked with her aunt today, who says she did not have any internal injuries, but she did have both femurs were fractured, and one leg, it appears, is going to need several surgeries, so she's still in the hospital today. So again, a very emotional interview from the family. And we know that that wrong way driver is a 34-year-old from Milwaukee, and he was driving, heading southbound in the northbound lanes on I-43. This happened around 12:40 in the morning on Monday morning, but still waiting to hear why this driver was going the wrong way. There's a lot of questions that, again, we're hoping the Ozaukee County Sheriff's Office here can answer. I know the family is wondering, was there alcohol or drugs involved? That's something we do not know at this time, but a big question people are asking, and the family heard that they were driving the wrong way for about 7 minutes. We've requested video from DOT cameras. Unfortunately, none of their cameras captured this particular crash, but again, just a very emotional interview today. We do know that the family is being remembered at a service tonight in Sheboygan at Crossroads Church. That's happening at 6 tonight. So one thing the family is asking for at this time is prayers. They're a big family based on faith and are asking for prayers. Potential GoFundMe, that's something they're talking about too, as unfortunately these two kids, Alyssa has an older brother, are going to have to, bury their parents. So it's a very sad story here. Still a lot of unanswered questions, but that's the update we have for you right now, coming from you at the Ozaukee County Sheriff's Office today.
And so what is the status of the suspect?
Yeah, so that 34-year-old, we don't know if they've been charged yet or not, but they are in serious condition at the hospital. So no court date, of course, as they're still in that serious condition. We've reached out to the Sheriff's Office to see if they could provide us any update on that, but have not yet heard back.
Christina,
but it's a 34-year-old man from Milwaukee.
This has got to be a difficult story to cover, something that so many of us have done before. You drop someone off at the airport, you pick someone up, it's just a routine day, and for this to happen, it hits you.
It does. I mean, personally, I have siblings myself. This is something my parents would do for me, pick me up and drive home. And, they were so close to home, just a couple of miles away. And actually, one thing that stuck with me is the aunt. It's kind of chilling, but this happened near Jay Road, and her brother who passed away, his name is Jay. So it is something that's, difficult, of course, for the aunt to share with us, but also she says this is something that the family is really leaning on the community for support during this time, and the community has really stepped up in praying for the family. So I think being able to share that legacy of the family is something that seemed to be a positive from the aunt's perspective today.
And just share again that memorial service that's happening tonight. How can the public support the family?
Yeah, so that's at Crossroads Church, and that is in Sheboygan. It's at 6 o'clock tonight. We did reach out to the church to see what exactly this service is going to entail and if the public, or I should say if the media is invited to that, but I know the family is really asking for prayers, and when they do have a potential GoFundMe set up, that is something that we'll share, of course, too. But the aunt also wanted to warn people that they've already seen some non-legit GoFundMes unfortunately pop up. So she wanted to make sure that if you are going to be donating, make sure that it's going to the appropriate person and not someone that's created
someone who is capitalizing on tragedy. Christina Van Zels, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah.
And of course, we'll have more on the GoFundMe, the services, and your report coming up on Fox Local. Thanks a bunch for taking some time out of your reporting to share what's going on. And we are following some lighter news as well. We're telling you about what's happening at Discovery World right now. 9 student groups have worked all year to build boats. They've studied it. It's part of a program called STEM to Stern. And so they're putting their money where their mouths are. Not only did they build this, they're confident that they are not seaworthy, river-worthy, lake-worthy. There you go. They've got on their life jackets. And let's see if we can hear anything coming from them. I Unfortunately, we're not getting any sound from them. Oh. Altogether, more than 50 students took part in 9 boat building projects. And these are the students from El Puente High School. And the boats were built during classes, and some were after-school programs. And so much teamwork had to go into designing the boat and building the boat. Oh! That looks like a crew that's seaworthy, lake-worthy. It's floating.
Kim, this is Carrie. Just jumping in real quick. I saw them launch maybe 5 minutes ago, so they really made it out far onto the water.
Wow, this is Carrie, our producer, who's he's driving Wisconsin Wild. Carrie, this is pretty cool.
Quite the experience, yeah, for sure. If you built the boat yourself and then are able to launch it, that's pretty neat.
And you know, in my lifetime, I have only been in a canoe once, and I was later in life. And so for these high schoolers to get that opportunity, you know, it's a resource that's in our backyard, and we take for granted that it's there, and we, you know, falsely assume that everyone has had the chance to enjoy it like this. Not true. And so this is such a remarkable program that it does bring students onto the water. Looks like we got 2. Thanks for joining us, and what a perfect way to...
Good evening. It is a holiday. Weekend, but no holiday for the Fox 6 Sports Blitz. Curly's most of us. Tim Van Vorn, Brandon Cruz are here. Lily's out, undoubtedly watching, locked in to what's going on in the world of sports tonight, and we'll be happy to have her back a week from now. Here is our starting lineup for this evening. It's bottoms up for the Brewers. The bottom of the batting order showing some signs of life in a winning week. The Admirals goal-oriented in the Calder Cup playoffs, but falling short of their ultimate goal. Pat Murphy makes us say what? What do you know? He's usually good for that. The world's best women's golfers coming to play one of the best courses they get to play, and it's in our backyard. Plus, our latest high school hotshot has no trouble satisfying his need for speed.
It was what was needed. We used to be a team that did what was needed, and that's how we rolled. And we played every pitch.
Pat Murphy trying to get the Brewers back to that type of baseball because that is the way they play their best baseball, Brandon. They are above average this week, 4-3 on the week, against below average teams.
Yeah, and that's why it's kind of a mixed bag. Okay, you still come out and you leave the week with a win. You have a winning week, but you didn't do great against the Pirates. You couldn't score runs, you couldn't hit until Sunday when they did it in the 8th inning by scoring 3 runs after trailing by 2. It's the first time all season that they've won after trailing through 7 innings, and I think this is the edge that Pat Murphy's talking about. Playing that way when it matters, when they have to. And that's what they were able to do on Sunday in the afternoon. It's something we haven't seen much lately. It's something we haven't seen through 54 games. But here it was in Pittsburgh on Sunday after they had given up a lead late. So I think when you see that, it's a sign that Pat Murphy's trying to get these guys to build off of.
And I mentioned leading into our show here tonight, the bottom of the order doing a little bit. And that's really Caleb Durbin. Now, Joey Ortiz had some hits the other night, but Durbin had been in a slump. He's learning about the major league level. We all get that. But he's had some productive at-bats here as the week has gone along, showing the type of player he is. He's not a home run hitter, for goodness sakes, but he gets his bat on the ball. He hustles. He does some things on the base paths, too.
Yeah, and that's what it is. I think he came in, his first appearance in the big leagues, he had a really solid day. And then it slowed down, and guys started to figure out where his holes were in his swing. And now he's adjusting to their adjustments, and it's paying dividends for the Brewers. And what you're being able to see is that he is a guy that is just digging in, and he's making sure that he's paying attention and coming through when he needs to. He seems to always make contact. He also has come up with some big plays. Today it was both offensively and defensively helping this team win, including a double off the wall that almost got out, but it didn't need to. It scored the run, and then he would score later. So, yes, Durbin has become a clutch guy at the bottom of that order, and if he's somebody that can stay that way, all of a sudden the Brewers can start to get a lot more wins because of that production down there.
It is a struggle to score for this team. I was looking at some numbers today. The Cubs, this is just reference. I mean, nobody's going to keep up with the Cubs. They have 321 runs scored this season, okay? Pirates 164. It's an entirely different baseball game. Brewers would be where on that list? Cubs are 1, Pirates at the bottom. Brewers are 12th. I was a little bit surprised. So they have, maybe 100 or so runs fewer than the Cubs, but they're definitely above some of the major league average right now for runs scored. It's a battle, though. It just feels like a battle offensively.
Well, because up until this week, it had been feast or famine for them. A lot of runs in games or none really giving up a lot. Whereas this week, though, if you look at the way they played, every game felt close, and they were. I mean, they were, especially in Pittsburgh, every game seemed to be a one-run game, and it was decided late. And so all of a sudden, you're seeing the Brewers start to round into shape. The one thing they still need to do, though, is to get healthy, and then they can start to figure out where they stand. But offensively speaking, they do have the ability to put runs on the board. They just haven't been able to do it consistently, and we saw that play out this week as well.
If it was football, we'd be hearing complementary football. We need to play complementary football. It's a cliche that gets thrown out there, but it's true in baseball too. A taxed offense leads to a taxed bullpen because the margin for error is so tight. The Brewers are getting a lot of good performances from young pitchers this season, but mostly 6-inning games maybe, and so that means the bullpen's in a lot in high leverage situations.
Yeah, and the games, because like we were just talking about, especially this week, you look at it, the Brewers weren't scoring a lot of runs. So that meant it's a one-run lead or a one-run deficit, and the bullpen has to come in and try to hold that. And then you get guys like O'Neal Cruz, who's just killing the ball lately. He hit one today nearly 123 miles an hour, the hardest